Daniela Torres felt consciousness return slowly, like swimming up through warm honey. Her eyelids were heavy, her mouth dry, and her head throbbed with a dull ache that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. She became aware of softness beneath her, the kind of luxurious comfort she had never experienced in her modest apartment above the photography studio in the arts district. Her eyes fluttered open to reveal a ceiling so high-end, pristine it looked like it belonged in a museum. Recessed lighting cast a warm glow across cream-colored walls adorned with abstract paintings that probably cost more than her annual income. Daniela bolted upright, immediately regretting the sudden movement as pain shot through her temples. Where was she? This definitely was not her cramped bedroom with its second-hand furniture and water-stained ceiling. The room around her was spectacular in its understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city sprawled below, buildings glittering in the early morning light like jewels scattered across velvet. The bed she occupied was enormous, dressed in sheets with a thread count that felt like silk against her skin. Modern furniture in rich mahogany and cream leather filled the space, each piece perfectly placed to create an atmosphere of refined sophistication. Daniela looked down at herself and gasped. She wore an oversized charcoal gray dress shirt that clearly belonged to a man, the fabric expensive and soft against her skin. Underneath, she could feel she still had on her black lace bra and underwear, but her dress from the previous night was nowhere to be seen. The shirt carried a scent that made her heart race, expensive cologne mixed with something distinctly masculine and intoxicating. Her mind raced, trying to piece together fragments of the previous evening. She remembered the charity gala at the Metropolitan Gallery, her event she had been hired to photograph. There had been champagne, endless glasses of it, and she had been celebrating securing a contract with a major fashion magazine. After finishing her work, she had decided to enjoy the party, mingling with the wealthy attendees and feeling for once like she belonged in their world. But then things became fuzzy. She remembered feeling dizzy, stumbling toward the coat check, and then stepping outside for fresh air. The night air had been cool against her flushed skin, and she remembered leaning against the building, trying to steady herself. Then there had been a man, someone she did not know, with breath that reeked of alcohol and hands that grabbed her arm too tightly, trying to guide her toward the parking garage. The bedroom door opened, interrupting her desperate attempts at memory recovery. Daniela's breath caught in her throat as a man entered carrying a tray with coffee and what looked like fresh pastries. He was possibly the most attractive man she had ever seen in her life. Tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled in that perfect way that looked effortlessly tousled. His face was all sharp angles and strong features, with penetrating grey eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. He wore dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that made her stomach flip unexpectedly. "Good morning," he said, his voice deep and smooth with a hint of amusement. "I was beginning to wonder if you would sleep through the entire day." Daniela clutched the oversized shirt closer around herself, suddenly acutely aware of how exposed she felt. "Who are you? Where am I? And why am I wearing your shirt?" The questions tumbled out rapid fire, her voice rising with each one. The man set the tray down on a sleek knit stand and leaned casually against the wall, his grey eyes studying her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. "Vincent Cross, you are in my penthouse in the financial district, and you are wearing my shirt because your dress was torn and stained beyond repair last night." "Torn? How?" Daniela demanded, panic rising in her chest. "What happened to me?" Vincent pushed away from the wall and moved closer, though he maintained a respectful distance that somehow made her feel both safe and disappointed. "Nothing happened that you need to worry about, I promise you. I found you outside the gallery around midnight. Some drunk bastard was trying to take advantage of your condition, and let us just say it convinced him to find someone else to bother." Memory flashed through Daniela's mind with sudden clarity. The man with the grabbing hands, the panic as she realized how vulnerable she was, and then a commanding voice cutting through her fear. This man, Vincent, had appeared like something out of a dream. his presence enough to send her would-be attacker running into the night. The creep in the expensive suit, she whispered, touching her forehead as the memory solidified. He kept trying to pull me toward the garage. That would be him, Vincent confirmed, his jaw tightening with barely controlled anger. I was leaving a business dinner at the restaurant next door when I saw what was happening. You were barely conscious, and he was being very insistent. After our conversation, he decided to call himself a cab instead. Despite her embarrassment and confusion, Daniela felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Thank you for helping me, but I still do not understand why you brought me here instead of taking me home or to a hospital. Vincent walked to the windows, gazing out at the city below. You were pretty out of it, and when I asked where you lived, you kept saying you could not go home because Nathan would find you there. You seemed terrified of this Nathan person, so I figured you would be safer here. My penthouse has excellent security. At the mention of Nathan's name, Daniela felt her stomach twist with familiar anxiety. Nathan Pierce, her ex-boyfriend, who had transformed from charming suitor to controlling nightmare over their year-long relationship. She had finally found the courage to leave him 6 months ago, but he refused to accept that their relationship was over. He showed up everywhere, her apartment, her studio, even following her to client meetings. His behavior had escalated from annoying to frightening, and she had been documenting everything for a potential restraining order. I cannot believe I told you about Nathan, she said, mortification flooding through her. I must have been completely out of my mind. You were quite chatty once I got some water and aspirin into you, Vincent said, turning back to face her with a slight smile. You told me you were a photographer, that you just landed a major contract with Vogue Italia, and that your ex-boyfriend was making your life miserable. You also critiqued several of the photographs hanging in my living room and offered to take better ones. Daniela felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. Oh God, I am so sorry. I have a tendency to get opinionated about photography when I have been drinking. Do not apologize, Vincent said, genuine warmth in his voice. It was refreshing to meet someone who cared more about the composition and lighting of a photograph than its investment value. Most people I meet only want to talk about money or business connections. Despite her mortification, Daniela found herself relaxing slightly. This man had saved her from a potentially dangerous situation and had been nothing but respectful, even bringing her coffee and pastries. Still, waking up in a stranger's home wearing his clothes was not exactly how she had planned to start her Sunday. I should probably get dressed and get out of your way, she said, looking around for her belongings. I am sure you have better things to do than babysit a drunk photographer. Vincent's expression grew serious. Actually, I was hoping you might join me for breakfast. I make excellent French toast, and I would like to make sure you are feeling all right before you leave. Besides, your dress really is unwearable, and I had my assistant drop off some clothes that should fit you. They are in the bathroom. The offer was unexpected and surprisingly tempting. There was something about Vincent Cross that drew her in, despite all her rational instincts telling her to be cautious. He had an air of quiet confidence and genuine kindness that made her want to trust him, even though they had just met under the most unusual circumstances. Why are you being so nice to me? Danielle asked, studying his face for any sign of ulterior motives. You do not even know me. Vincent held her gaze, his grey eyes serious. Because someone needed help, and I was in a position to provide it, and because, based on our conversation last night, you seem like someone worth getting to know better. The sincerity in his voice made Daniela's heart skip a beat. Against her better judgment, she found herself nodding. Okay, breakfast sounds good, but then I really do need to figure out what happened last night and deal with the fact that I apparently made a complete fool of myself. You did not make a fool of yourself, Vincent assured her, walking toward the door. You were charming, passionate about your work, and brave enough to speak your mind. Take your time getting ready. Bathroom is through that door, and the clothes are laid out for you. As he left the room, closing the door softly behind him, Daniela sat in the enormous bed, trying to process everything. She had woken up in a billionaire's penthouse after being rescued by a man who looked like he stepped out of a magazine. It was surreal, slightly terrifying, and if she was being honest with herself, more exciting than anything that had happened to her in years. She climbed out of bed, her legs slightly unsteady, and made her way to the bathroom, which turned out to be larger than her entire bedroom at home. 30 minutes later, Daniela emerged from the bedroom, wearing the clothes Vincent's assistant had provided, soft grey cashmere pants, and a cream silk blouse that fit perfectly. She had showered, washed her face, and felt significantly more human, though her head still ached slightly. The penthouse was even more impressive in daylight, with soaring ceilings, walls of windows, and an open floor plan that made the space feel both grand and somehow empty. She found Vincent in the kitchen, which was all stainless steel appliances and white marble countertops. He had removed his dress shirt and wore a simple black t-shirt that showed off a surprisingly muscular physique. He was flipping French toast on a professional-grade stove, moving with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own space. "Perfect timing," he said, glancing over his shoulder with a smile that made her pulse quicken. "I hope you like strawberries and whipped cream." Daniela slid onto one of the bar stools at the kitchen island, watching him plate the food with surprising care. "You really do cook. I thought billionaires just ordered from expensive restaurants." Vincent set a plate in front of her, the French toast perfectly golden and topped with fresh berries. "I grew up in foster care, bouncing between homes where you learned to cook or you went hungry. Some habits stick with you even after your circumstances change." The admission surprised her. Everything about Vincent cross-screamed old money and privilege, from his penthouse to his tailored clothes to the way he carried himself. "I had no idea. I assumed you were born with a silver spoon. Most people do," Vincent said, sitting across from her with his own plate. "They see the money and the success and assume it was always there. The truth is, I built my real estate empire from nothing, working construction jobs during the day and taking business classes at night. It took 15 years of 80-hour weeks to get here." Daniela took a bite of the French toast and nearly moaned at how delicious it was. "This is incredible, and I am impressed. Building something from nothing takes real courage and determination." "What about you?" Vincent asked, his grey eyes curious. "How did a talented photographer end up at that charity gala last night?" Daniela found herself relaxing as she told him about her journey, growing up in a working-class neighborhood with a single mother who cleaned houses to support them, getting a scholarship to art school, starting her photography business in a tiny studio above a dry cleaner, the struggles and small victories that had led to her breakthrough contract with Vogue Italia. "Your mother must be proud," Vincent said softly. Daniela's expression clouded. "She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. She never got to see me really make it, but I like to think she would have been happy." Vincent reached across the counter and covered her hand with his, the contact sending electricity through her entire body. "I am sure she would have been incredibly proud. What you have accomplished on your own is remarkable." They talked for over an hour, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Daniela learned that Vincent's company specialized in revitalizing historic buildings, turning them into luxury apartments, while preserving their architectural character. He was passionate about urban renewal and creating spaces where people could build lives and communities. "I actually have a proposition for you," Vincent said as they finished their coffee. "I am launching a new development project next month, converting 5 historic warehouses in the waterfront district into residential lofts. I need someone to photograph the properties, both before and after renovation, for marketing materials and my company portfolio. Based on what you told me last night about your work, I think you would be perfect for the job." Daniela's eyes widened. "That is a huge project. Are you seriously offering me the job based on a drunken conversation?" Vincent pulled out his phone and showed her his screen. "I looked up your work this morning while you were sleeping. Your portfolio is extraordinary. The way you capture light and texture, the emotional quality of your architectural shots. It is exactly what I need. Plus, you told me last night that you believe buildings have souls that need to be photographed properly. And I agree. The offer was incredible, both professionally and financially. A project of that scale would establish her as a serious architectural photographer and provide financial security for at least a year. But there was something else, something about the way Vincent looked at her, that made her hesitate. This is very generous, but I barely know you. Why would you trust me with such an important project? Vincent leaned forward slightly, his gaze intense. Because talent recognizes talent. Because I believe in taking chances on people who are passionate about their work. And because, if I am being completely honest, I want a reason to see you again. The admission hung in the air between them, charged with possibility. Daniela felt her heart race at the implication. This man was clearly way out of her league, wealthy and successful, and devastatingly attractive. Getting involved with a client was a terrible idea, especially one she had met under such unusual circumstances. But there was something about Vincent that made her want to throw caution aside. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter. Nathan's name appeared on the screen with a message that made her blood run cold. I know you are not at home, Daniela. Where are you? We need to talk. Now. Vincent noticed her sudden change in expression. Is that him? Daniela nodded, showing him the message. I do not know how he knows I am not home. He must be watching my apartment again. Vincent's jaw tightened with anger. That is stalking, Daniela. It is illegal, and it is not something you should have to deal with alone. I know, but proving it is complicated. I have been documenting everything, but getting a restraining order takes time and money I do not have right now. I have been hoping he would eventually give up and move on. Has he shown any signs of giving up? Vincent asked, his tone making it clear he already knew the answer. Daniela shook her head. If anything, he has gotten worse since I landed the Vogue contract. He keeps saying I am getting too big for my britches, and that I need him to keep me grounded. Vincent stood up, his entire demeanor shifting into something harder and more determined. Here is what is going to happen. You are going to accept my job offer because you are genuinely talented and I genuinely need you. We are going to start working together on Monday, and in the meantime, I am going to have my security team into Nathan Pierce and document his harassment. When we have enough evidence, my lawyers will file for a restraining order on your behalf. Daniela stared at him, overwhelmed by his immediate willingness to help. I cannot ask you to do all that. You barely know me. You are not asking. I am offering, Vincent said firmly. Nobody should have to live in fear of an ex who cannot accept that a relationship is over. And frankly, the idea of you being in danger makes me extremely uncomfortable. Why? Daniela asked softly. Why do you care so much about helping me? Vincent moved around the counter until he stood directly in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Because from the moment I saw you outside that gallery, terrified and vulnerable, something in me shifted. Because our conversation last night was the most genuine interaction I've had with anyone in years, and because the thought of Nathan or anyone else hurting you makes me want to do violence, which is not something I usually feel. The intensity in his voice made Daniela's breath catch. She should be cautious, should maintain professional distance, should protect herself from getting hurt. But when Vincent looked at her like that, with such fierce protectiveness and genuine concern, all her rational thoughts scattered. Okay, she whispered. I will take the job, and I will accept your help with Nathan. Vincent's expression softened into something tender. Good. Now, how about I drive you home so you can get some rest? We can meet Monday morning at my office to discuss the project details. The drive to Daniela's apartment was comfortable, filled with easy conversation and moments of charged silence. When Vincent pulled up outside her building, he insisted on walking her to her door and checking her apartment to make sure Nathan was not inside waiting for her. Standing in her small living room, surrounded by her photography equipment and second-hand furniture, Daniela felt acutely aware of the difference between her world and Vincent's. He did not seem to notice or care. examining her framed photographs on the walls with genuine interest. "These are beautiful," he said, studying a black and white shot of an old woman sitting in a doorway, sunlight illuminating her weathered face. "You have an incredible eye for capturing human emotion." "Thank you," Daniela said, standing beside him. "That was taken in Barcelona during a solo trip I saved for 2 years to afford." Vincent turned to face her, and suddenly they were standing very close, close enough that she could see flecks of silver in his grey eyes. "Daniela, about Monday, I want you to know that while I hope we can be friends, maybe even more eventually, I will never let anything compromise your professional reputation. This job is yours because you earned it, not because of anything else." The sincerity in his voice made her chest ache. "I believe you, and I want you to know that I am interested too, in being friends and maybe seeing where this goes. But I need to take things slowly. Nathan moved so fast, pushed so hard, and I need to be sure this is different. We will go as slowly as you need," Vincent promised. "I'm not going anywhere." He leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, a gesture so tender it made tears prick at her eyes. Then he left, leaving Daniela standing in her apartment, wondering if she had just made the best decision of her life or a terrible mistake. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniela threw herself into the warehouse project. She spent hours at each location, capturing the beauty in decay, the stories told by weathered brick and rusted metal. Vincent was there often, and they fell into an easy rhythm of working together, their professional relationship marked by mutual respect and creative collaboration. But there was also something else building between them, something neither could ignore. Lingering glances across dusty rooms, hands that brushed when reviewing photographs on her camera screen, conversations that stretched long after the work was done, sitting on sawhorses and talking about dreams and fears, and the things that shaped them into who they had become. Nathan's harassment continued, messages and calls that Daniela forwarded to Vincent's security team. But with Vincent's support, she felt stronger and less afraid. He never pushed for more than she was ready to give, content to let their connection deepen naturally. Then came the evening that changed everything. They were at the largest warehouse, working late to capture the golden hour light streaming through broken windows. Daniela was adjusting her camera settings when she felt Vincent come up behind her. "Look at that," he said softly, his breath warm against her ear as he pointed to where sunlight illuminated swirling dust particles, creating an almost magical atmosphere. Daniela turned to respond and found herself trapped between his body and her tripod, their faces inches apart. The air between them crackled with tension that had been building for weeks. "Daniela," Vincent said, his voice rough with restrained desire, "I need you to know something. These past 2 weeks working with you have been incredible. You challenge me, inspire me, and make me want to be better. And I am finding it increasingly difficult to maintain professional distance when all I want to do is this." He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. Not the gentle forehead kiss from before, but a real kiss full of heat and promise. Daniela melted into it, her arms wrapping around his neck as weeks of tension and attraction ignited into something consuming. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Daniela kept her eyes closed for a moment, savoring the feeling. "That was not slow," she whispered against his lips. "I know. I am sorry. I could not help myself," Vincent said, resting his forehead against hers. "Tell me you felt it too. Tell me I am not alone in this." "You are not alone," Daniela admitted, opening her eyes to find him watching her with an expression so intense it stole her breath. "I have been falling for you since that first morning, and it terrifies me." "Why does it terrify you?" "Because you are Vincent Cross, billionaire developer, and I am just Daniela Torres, a photographer who barely makes rent. Because this feels too good to be true, and I keep waiting for something to go wrong." Vincent pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her protectively. "I am not Nathan. I will never try to control you or diminish your accomplishments. And this, whatever is happening between us, is the most real thing I have felt in years." Daniela buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent and letting herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. They stood there in the golden light, holding each other as if afraid to let go. Neither of them aware of the camera phone taking pictures from the doorway or the figure disappearing into the shadows beyond. The photographs arrived 3 days later in a plain manila envelope shoved under Daniela's apartment door. She found them when she came home from a morning shoot, exhausted but happy after capturing stunning sunrise shots of Vincent's newest property. The envelope sat there innocently, and she opened it without thinking, expecting maybe promotional materials or documents from a client. Inside were a dozen high-resolution photographs of her and Vincent at the warehouse. The kiss they had shared, his arms around her, her head resting against his chest. Each image captured with telephoto precision, showing clearly identifiable faces and unmistakable intimacy. A note was paper-clipped to the top photograph in handwriting she recognized with sickening certainty. Interesting career strategy, Daniela. Sleeping with clients must be very profitable. I wonder what Vogue Italia would think about their new photographer engaging in such unprofessional behavior. What would Vincent's business partners think about him seducing employees? Call me. We need to discuss your future, Nathan. Daniela's hands shook so badly, she dropped the photographs, watching them scatter across her floor like evidence of a crime she had not committed. Her phone rang immediately, Nathan's number flashing on the screen. With trembling fingers, she answered. Hello, Nathan. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Did you get my package? Nathan's voice was sickeningly cheerful. I have been working on my photography skills. I think I captured some really compelling images. What do you want? Daniela asked, though she already knew the answer. I want you to come home, baby, where you belong, with me. I want you to leave Vincent Cross and his money, and remember that I am the one who supported you when you were nobody. I am the one who believed in you first. You did not support me, Nathan. You tried to control every aspect of my life. You criticized my work, isolated me from my friends, and made me feel worthless. I left because I finally realized I deserved better. Nathan's cheerful facade cracked, his voice turning cold. You think you deserve better. You think some rich bastard actually cares about you. He's using you, Daniela. Once he gets bored, he will throw you away like garbage. But I will still be here. I will always be here. The threat in his words made her skin crawl. What are you going to do with those photographs? That depends on you, Nathan said smoothly. Come back to me, and they disappear forever. Keep playing house with your billionaire, and I start making phone calls. Vogue Italia, Vincent's investors, every architectural firm and real estate developer in the city. I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of woman you really are. Your reputation will be destroyed, and his business deals will fall apart. I have already done research. He has a major acquisition pending with some very conservative investors who would not appreciate their partner being involved in this kind of scandal. Daniela felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Give me time to think. You have 48 hours, Nathan said. After that, I start making calls. And Daniela, do not tell your boyfriend about this. If he tries to use his lawyers or money against me, the photographs go public immediately. This is between you and me. He hung up, leaving Daniela staring at the scattered photographs on her floor, feeling more trapped than she had in months. She thought about calling Vincent immediately, but Nathan's threat echoed in her mind. If Vincent tried to intervene, the photographs would go public, potentially destroying both their reputations and his pending business deal. For the rest of the day, Daniela went through the motions of normal life, while her mind raced in circles. She met Vincent for dinner as planned, sitting across from him at an intimate restaurant and trying to act normal, while her world crumbled around her. He noticed something was wrong immediately. You have barely touched your food, and you keep looking at your phone like you are expecting bad news. What is wrong? Vincent asked, his grey eyes filled with concern. Just tired from the early morning shoot, Daniela lied, hating herself for the deception. The light was perfect, but I had to wake up at 4 in the morning to catch it. Vincent reached across the table and took her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles in a gesture that had become familiar and comforting. You are working too hard. Maybe we should take a weekend off, go somewhere away from the city. There is a beach house I own up the coast that would be perfect for relaxation. The offer was tempting, the idea of escaping with Vincent to someplace where Nathan could not reach them. But she knew it would only be temporary. Nathan would be waiting when they returned, his threats hanging over everything like a dark cloud. That sounds wonderful, she said, managing a smile that did not reach her eyes. Let me finish this current batch of edits first. That night, alone in her apartment, Daniela stared at the photographs spread across her coffee table. She thought about Vincent, about the way he made her feel strong and valued, about the career she had worked so hard to build, about the future she had been allowing herself to imagine for the first time in years. Then she thought about Nathan's threats. If those photographs went public, the narrative would be clear. Struggling photographer sleeps with wealthy clients to advance her career. It did not matter that she had earned the job on merit, or that their relationship had developed naturally. The optics would destroy her professional reputation and potentially damage Vincent's business dealings. The decision seemed impossible. Give up the best thing that had ever happened to her, or watch Nathan destroy everything they had both worked for. Daniela cried until she had no tears left, then sat in the darkness trying to find a solution that did not exist. The next morning, she woke to her phone ringing. Vincent's name on the screen made her chest ache. She let it go to voicemail, not trusting herself to talk to him without breaking down. He called again an hour later, then sent a text. Are you okay? You seemed off last night. Call me when you can. She could not call, could not see him, could not maintain the pretense that everything was fine. Instead, she threw herself into work, editing photographs until her eyes burned and her back ached from sitting hunched over her computer. Nathan called that evening. 24 hours left. Daniela, have you made your decision? She hung up without responding, but his words echoed in her mind all night. By morning, she had made her choice, the only choice that protected both Vincent's business and her hard-earned reputation. With shaking hands, she typed out a text message to Vincent. I need to take some time away from the project. Personal issues I need to deal with. I will send the completed photographs by the end of the week. Please do not contact me for a while. I am sorry. She hit send before she could change her mind, then turned off her phone and sat on her couch, feeling like her heart was being ripped from her chest. Vincent showed up at her door 3 hours later, pounding hard enough to make her jump. Daniela, I know you are in there. Open the door. We need to talk. She sat frozen, tears streaming down her face as she listened to him call her name. Finally, his voice came through the door, softer, but no less determined. I do not know what happened or what scared you, but I am not giving up on us. When you are ready to talk, I will be here. I will wait as long as it takes. His footsteps retreated down the hallway, and Daniela covered her face with her hands, sobbing silently. She had made her choice, but it felt like dying. 2 days later, Nathan called for the final time. Smart decision, baby. I knew you would see reason eventually. Meet me at our old apartment tomorrow at noon. We need to discuss the terms of you coming home. Daniela arrived at the apartment she used to share with Nathan, feeling like she was walking to her own execution. But when she opened the door, she found not just Nathan, but Vincent and 2 men in expensive suits who introduced themselves as Vincent's lawyers. What is this? Nathan demanded, his face flushing with anger. I told you not to involve him. Actually, Vincent said calmly, you made the mistake of underestimating Daniela. She told me everything yesterday morning. The photographs, the threats, all of it. Daniela stared at Vincent in confusion. I did not tell you anything. I have not talked to you in 3 days. Vincent smiled slightly. No, but you left your laptop open at my office last week. When your email notification popped up with Nathan's initial threat, my IT team may have done some digging. We have been monitoring his communications and building a case against him for the past week. One of the lawyers stepped forward, handing Nathan a thick folder. You are being charged with stalking, harassment, attempted blackmail, and several other crimes. These are copies of all your threatening messages, the photographs you took without consent, and testimony from multiple witnesses about your behavior. You have two choices. You can accept a plea deal that includes mandatory counseling and a permanent restraining order, or we can take this to trial where you will likely face significant jail time. Nathan's face went from red to pale as he flipped through the documents. You cannot do this. I have rights. You have the right to stop terrorizing your ex-girlfriend, the second lawyer said coldly. Choose wisely. After Nathan left with the lawyers, looking defeated and small, Daniela turned to Vincent with tears streaming down her face. Why did you let me suffer for 3 days thinking I had to give you up? Vincent pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. Because I needed time to build an airtight case. If I had confronted him too early, he might have released those photographs out of spite. I had to wait until my lawyers had enough evidence to guarantee he would face serious consequences if he tried anything. I am sorry you were scared, but I needed to protect you properly. Daniela buried her face in his chest, crying from relief and exhaustion. I thought I was going to lose everything. You were never going to lose me, Vincent said fiercely, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. I told you I was not going anywhere, and I meant it. Nathan is going to accept the plea deal because the alternative is prison. And those photographs he took, my lawyers are having them destroyed as part of the agreement. They will never see the light of day. What about your business deal? Your reputation? My business partners care about my ethics and integrity, not gossip or scandal, Vincent said firmly. And anyone who would believe Nathan's version of events over the truth is not someone I want to work with anyway. Daniela felt something tight in her chest finally release, like a fist that had been clenched for months suddenly opening. It is really over. Nathan is really going away. He's really going away, Vincent confirmed. And now we can focus on what really matters, us, our work, the future we are going to build together. Standing in that apartment where she had been so miserable, held in the arms of a man who had fought for her when she could not fight for herself, Daniela finally allowed herself to believe in happy endings. She kissed Vincent with all the emotion she had been holding back, pouring 3 days of fear and pain and relief into that kiss. When they finally broke apart, Vincent was smiling. So, about that beach house, are you ready to take that weekend away? Daniela laughed through her tears. I am ready for anything, as long as it is with you. They left the apartment hand in hand, walking out into bright sunshine that felt like a promise of better days ahead. Behind them, the shadows of the past remained trapped in that building, no longer able to follow them into their future. 3 months later, Daniela's photographs of Vincent's warehouse project won a prestigious architectural photography award. She stood on stage accepting the honor, her eyes finding Vincent in the audience. He was smiling at her with such pride and love that her heart felt like it might burst. After the ceremony, as they walked through the city streets together, Daniela thought about how much had changed since that morning she woke up in his penthouse. She had been so certain that a woman from her world could never truly belong in his. But she had learned that love did not care about money or status or the differences between their backgrounds. Vincent stopped walking suddenly, pulling her into a quiet alcove between buildings. I have something for you, he said, producing a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Daniela's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a stunning ring, not overly large or ostentatious, but perfectly beautiful in its elegant simplicity. This is not a proposal, Vincent said quickly, seeing her wide eyes. Not yet, anyway. This is a promise that I will always fight for you, always support your dreams, and always love you exactly as you are. When I do propose, and I will, I want you to be completely certain that this is what you want. Daniela threw her arms around his neck, laughing and crying at the same time. I am already certain, you impossible man. I have been certain since the moment you brought me French toast and told me I could critique your penthouse. Vincent kissed her there in the shadows of the city they both loved. To people from different worlds who had found in each other something worth fighting for. And as they held each other, both knowing that this was just the beginning of their story, Daniela felt finally and completely free, Nathan was gone. Her career was flourishing, and she had found a love she never thought possible. The photographer, who had woken up confused and scared in a billionaire's penthouse, had discovered that sometimes the most unexpected mornings lead to the most beautiful futures.